All right, so I went on. I seen that Steel City updated the ESBC roster. So if you go on their website, the complete roster is fully updated on the site. And as I was looking at it, man, I seen there was some names on there, not a whole lot, but there was a couple names that I was looking at, and I'm like, man, I really wonder if just how many of these guys are actually, men and women, are actually going to get played in this game. The roster is huge, man, and that is amazing, right? But there are two in particular that really have some really bad records on there. But it also made me think there's people with bad records, but then there's also fighters that nobody really knows. Are these fighters actually going to get utilized? I don't know. Let's talk about it though. All right, so like I said, man, I was perusing, you know what I mean, through the ESBC roster, and I'm looking at names, man, and there's really two questions I want y'all to think about, man, as y'all watching this video. One, are we past the point of, like, because I don't want to make it sound wrong, but are we past the point of like fighter announcements and fighter announcement shows? Are we to the point where it's just like, look, just we the community will watch the ESBC page and we'll check for, you know what I'm saying, for updates to the roster? Are we at that point? And also, do we feel like that there has been put too much into signing fighters and not enough into like everything else, right? Think about those two things, all right? Think about those two questions. So I was looking through the roster, man, and again, I was looking at some of these fighters. I'm like, dang, yo, some of these cats really got some pretty bad records, right? Not a lot of them. And of course, it was names like Emmanuel Gussis, who, believe it or not, he was an exciting dude, man. He was just really unorthodox. I mean, Floyd Mayweather went on to say that he was probably one of the hardest fight show that he had ever had, man. It's because the guy was just so awkward. There's other guys, but then there's also fighters like Heather Hardy, who, believe it or not, does not have a bad record, was actually pretty well known in the women's division. But as it stands right now, the women's division isn't really getting a whole lot of a push when it comes to ESBC. We got names. We did get a female fighter announcement show where they talked about Clarissa Shields and just, I mean, tons of names, Sulim Urbina, all that good stuff. Sanisa Estrada. We got some great names in there. But I think the women's division actually needs more of a push. Otherwise, we run into a situation where I don't believe a lot of the community is actually going to be picking people out of the women's division. That's just my personal opinion. I would like to see a game where people are just picking just anyone, and they've gone so far to master the game, and we're turning anybody into monsters. Doesn't matter what division, doesn't matter what fighter you choose. But I got a feeling, man, that it really isn't going to go that way. We all know that every competitive game, every esport, at some point develops a meta. We all know that Fight Night Champion ended up developing a meta, which in turn starts to limit who is selected from your roster. And that's regardless of any game. With that being said, do we really see a situation coming where we have 200 plus fighters, but only 30 are actually being utilized on a consistent basis? And if that is the case, what happens after that? Like, what happens? What happens to make all these other signings really seem like worth it, you know? Because I don't want it to look like in the build up to ESBC coming out, there was so much energy put into, hey, everybody wants to see these fighters that are in the game, and then we get it, and then all of a sudden, size of the roster doesn't matter anymore. Man, that would be a lot of wasted energy. That would be a lot of wasted time. That would be, man, you name it. So community, man, talk to me. Where are we at right now? Are we to the point where we don't want to see fighter signings and fighter shows? Unless it's really high level marquee fighters, like a Gervonta Davis or a Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao, something like that. Are we to that point where it's like, look, just update the roster and, on the webpage, and then you guys let us know? Or are we to the point where it's like, keep feeding me, roster additions, keep feeding me any piece of information that you can, because we kind of need it until the game comes out, right? I want to know, because I personally, I do feel like we're in a situation where a shift is coming. All right. What that is and what it may be, I don't know, man. I wish I did. I really do. I really wish, honestly, I could just get this game play tested so I would know exactly how competitive some fighters in this game are going to be or aren't. Are we going to see a situation where this game, the meta is nothing but heavy hitters? Is it going to be the type of game where the meta is completely movement? Is it going to be a meta of fast hands? Is it going to be a meta of tall, lanky characters just to maintain space, distance, and, implement good reach? I want to know, because that is going to determine how much of this roster, man, actually get plays and doesn't. Are any of you going to be playing individuals out of the women's division? That's huge for me. I train female fighters, man. That is a big deal for me. But what does the community feel, man? I want to know what you all have to say. I really want to talk about this. I really hope to get some good conversation. Yeah, man. So let me know. Appreciate y'all, for coming back to the Coach's Corner, I'll catch y'all on the next one. Peace out.